A new report has found that the number of anti-Semitic incidents is near record highs in Australia. They've come down slightly compared to last year, but Jewish leaders say members of their community are still being exposed to unacceptable levels of hatred. A warning, this story contains images of offensive graffiti.
Hateful banners, attacks on synagogues, verbal and physical abuse. Jewish groups fear anti-Semitism in Australia is becoming normalised.
There is a sickness in modern Australian society, and it is hatred of Jews.
They've collated figures showing there were more than 1,600 anti-Jewish incidents nationally in the 12 months to October. That's down from last year's all-time high of more than 2,000, but it's still way above the levels seen before October 7. Some incidents have since been linked to organised crime, but Jewish leaders say the attacks still struck fear into the community and altered the image of Australia around the world.
The perception of Australia amongst the international Jewish community, I'm sorry to say, our reputation is terrible.
What is happening in Australia is a wake-up call worldwide.
While ASIO's linked Iran to attacks on a Melbourne synagogue and a Sydney deli, many of the incidents are much lower profile, involving graffiti or posters.
As recently as yesterday, we charged a 71-year-old female with a number of instances of politically motivated graffiti.
New South Wales Parliament became the backdrop for one of the most brazen acts of anti-Semitism. Neo-Nazis, many with their faces uncovered, were allowed to chant slogans associated with Hitler Youth alongside a banner calling for the end of the Jewish lobby.
What you are saying is abolish me and people like me. It is an example, I think, of an attempt to work around some of the legislation.
Legislation the government plans to change next year. Nick Dole, ABC News, Sydney.
International Jewish leaders have met in Sydney to discuss a global spike in anti-Semitism. A new global task force has been created to coordinate responses to anti-Jewish hate and includes representatives from Argentina, Canada, France, Germany, the US and the UK. They say they're witnessing a normalisation of hate speech in their respective countries.
Over the past 2 years, anti-Semitism has become an ideology that connects the far left, the far right and Islamist groups. It has also spread into mainstream society.
The leaders' visit coincides with the release of an annual report by the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, which recorded more than 1,600 anti-Jewish incidents in the 12 months to September this year. The group will discuss incidents outlined in the report, including the firebombing of Melbourne's Adas Israel Synagogue in December last year, which has since been linked to Iran.
First of all, the international Jewish community knows it. They know all about it. And the second thing that happens is they are shocked. They're not shocked that these incidents are happening because they're happening in their own countries. What they're shocked about is that it's happening in Australia.
According to the report, verbal abuse was the most common experience, with total incident levels still more than 3 times that of any year prior to the October 7 attacks.
Attacks on Australian Jews have been described as some of the worst in recent years. It's prompting Jewish leaders from around the world to convene in Sydney for an anti-Semitism task force. Let's go live to Crystal Wu. Crystal, a new report on anti-Semitic incidents has been published. What did it find?
Well, Karen, Australian Jews are facing a second year of rising anti-Semitic attacks, and that's been prompted by the October 2023 attack on Israel. Now, a new report was published by the Australian Council of Executive Jewry, and it shows that these past 2 years have been the worst it's ever been. As you can see, in 2024 and 25, those numbers rose dramatically. This year, we reported 1,654 attacks. Last year, more than 2,000. That's compared to the previous 10 years, which averages out to about 350 attacks reported. Now, if we compare that state by state, New South Wales and Victoria recorded the highest numbers.
Modern Australian society, and it is hatred of Jews. The figures of the last 2 years, and since the attack on Israel on the 7th of October 2023, remain unacceptably high.
The worst of the attacks happened at the end of last year, beginning of this year. As you will probably remember, in October last year, there was an arson attack at Lewis Continental Kitchen in Bondi. There's been multiple car bombings and graffiti in Sydney's eastern suburbs. In December last year, there was a fire bombing at the Israel synagogue in Melbourne. And in January this year, a caravan was found with explosives and a note targeting the Jewish community, which police later said was a fabricated terrorist plot. In August this year, the ASIO and the government confirmed that links had been established between the Iranian regime and the arson attacks that happened earlier last year. Now, he was asked about how overseas representatives are interpreting what's happening in Australia at the moment, how they perceive the hundreds of protesters facilitated by New South Wales Police and Victoria Police. This is what the Australian Council of Executive Jury President had to say.
The perception of Australia amongst the international Jewish community, I'm sorry to say, our reputation is terrible. Australia was seen by the international Jewish community as a place of haven after the Second World War. They're not shocked that these incidents are happening because they're happening in their own countries. What they're shocked about is that it's happening in Australia. They say, surely not Australia of all places.
Now, the New South Wales government has just passed a bill giving people outside places of worship or attending places of worship more protection. So police are now able to move protesters on if they try and disrupt anyone going into a place of worship. Kieran.
Crystal, thank you. A federal minister's trip to New York has been revealed to have cost taxpayers more than $100,000. Communications Minister Annika Wells and two of her staff travelled to the UN General Assembly in September to spruik Australia's social media ban for under-16s. The government provided the travel costs following a question by the opposition in Senate estimates in October. The airfares to New York cost $94.8 thousand Australian dollars. Accommodation for the three totalled just under $12,000 US, and ground transport $1,000 US.